I believe trauma happens in isolation most of the time, and we need relationship to heal. So I think having a counselor that can hold space for you. I've had wonderful therapists that have been able to sit with me and sit with what seemed like intolerable pain became tolerable because somebody was with me.
Welcome back to the You Need a Counselor podcast. This is a show presented by Heart and Solutions Counseling Agency. We release new episodes every Sunday at 5 p.m. Central and encourage you to batch up that laundry, put away the dishes, plan for the week ahead, or do any other task that might seem daunting while you give our show a listen. You might just be encouraged to call your therapist, connect with this week's guest, or seek out those services you've been considering for a while but haven't made the commitment to yet. If you are in the state of Iowa and are in need of mental or behavioral health counseling, give us a call at 1-800-531-4236. Enjoy the show.
Hello, and welcome back to the You Need a Counselor podcast. My name is Dr. Julie Johnson. I'm the president and founder here at Heart and Solutions, Mental Health Counseling and Behavioral Health Counseling here in Iowa. My guest co-host is on jury duty today, so it's just me hosting today. Crystal will be back next week. This is the You Need a Counselor podcast. The mission of this podcast is a podcast designed for people who are curious about counseling, who have barriers keeping them from experiencing the benefits of counseling. Our mission is to share stories about counseling, good, bad, and indifferent, and spread the message that everyone can benefit from mental health and behavioral health counseling services. So our guest today is a coach and a consultant who uses a trauma-informed background to be able to help other people live their lives with clarity and with purpose. Suzanne Roberts is the author of the book and the documentary called It's Deeper Than That. We're interested to hear about that book and documentary. Welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me. And thank you so much for advocating for mental health.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about the coaching and consulting that you do.
I will tell you that, first of all, I'm a master somatic coach, which means I take an embodied approach. And in that embodied approach, I look at what are some of the ways that we are holding in our body survival responses, or I would say adaptive strategies that are psychobiological, that are living in our body, that we don't even know are there, and we're living on top of them. So I help people become aware of the way, whether it's dissociation or freezing or avoiding or complying or fighting against. Those are the 5 we look at, how they're living in your body, and then how to create a grounded recovery of presence and a centered, I would say, kind of purpose. So that's one thing that's part of the coaching. Another thing is that I do nervous system regulation when I can see my clients in person. I'm trained to do hands-on work, and I believe most people don't know how to really rest or have stillness, or they're so adrenalized for so long that they don't even know they're adrenalized, and to help them find safety inside, resting and finding stillness. And then the other thing that's part of my coaching is I unpack the way we've been socialized. So I look at intersecting forces of dominance and oppression and how they shape us so that we can find out who we truly are underneath all that conditioning. So I am a leadership coach. I do work with leaders. I do work with teams and organizations, and I feel like I take a unique approach to coaching.
So you mentioned those 5 coping strategies or those adaptive strategies that we may find are living in our bodies. How might we know that we might be having one of those go-to strategies in our bodies?
Well, when I'm working with clients, what I do is we do them together. So I have a worksheet and everything. So like we'll brace, we'll fight against, we'll comply, we'll avoid, and we'll dissociate. And people will go, I'll say, what is the most familiar to you? And people know right away. I do that. Or we also look at what do you do under pressure? Because they show up most under pressure. So once they can identify it, we'll look at like what was it taking care of? Was it taking care of a fracture to safety, a fracture to connection, a fracture to belonging? And we always talk about that, or indignity, but we always talk about their brilliant strategies, their non-cognitive ways our psychobiology takes care of us when we can't do it cognitively. And so once they discover what they are, it's easy to find out once you you do them. Then we do a grounding centered practice to help them find something that makes them more alive and have a greater sense of innate power, so that when they become aware of that habit, they have something else to recover to. So you need both, right? You need to have awareness, but you also need to have a recovery point, or you can't change.
And is that where that next piece comes in, that part about having some discomfort with being still, having discomfort with those kinds of grounding or breathing practices that require us to not distract ourselves in whatever way that we typically do?
Yes, I don't think change is comfortable. I really appreciate what you said, but there's a difference. One of my teaching assistants, she always says, choose your hard. Surviving is hard, and choosing to do things that are life-giving is hard, but one's life-giving and one's life-taking. So you have to kind of decide, do I want to feel more alive? Do I want to feel like I have more agency? Do I want to feel like I can listen to my inner knowing? Do I want to feel like I am something more than my history? I'm something more than my trauma. I am something more than the bad things that have happened to me. I'm way more than that. So I think when I call it the pain of disconnection is greater than the pain of reconnection, I think then the discomfort is worth it.
Absolutely. It's I like the analogy of the toilet paper roll, right? Because when the toilet paper roll starts to get low, there's some discomfort in the idea that, hey, we're going to run out of toilet paper. But there's also discomfort in the idea of replacing the toilet paper roll when there's already
Right.
some still on there. And so we either replace it and we say, well, I'm going to save myself that other discomfort, or we get to a point where we have to we have to do it because the pain of not replacing it is greater than the pain of replacing it.
Absolutely.
Mm. So you talked about that feeling more alive, and that's kind of, you've talked about vibrancy and purpose in life, and that feeling of being alive. And if somebody hasn't experienced that, or maybe they've only experienced that
Right.
a little bit, how might somebody kind of know that that's something that would be helpful to them? Or are there signs that they're not living with that vibrancy and that purpose?
I think those are great questions. I think, there's a difference between stillness and sedation. And in stillness, there is a dynamism of energy. It's not void. And sedating is lack of feeling. I would say everybody has had a moment sometime, whether it's seeing a beautiful sunset, or if you have a pet, or um, witnessing maybe, a funeral or a wedding or something, in a moment that kind of takes your breath away for a second. I don't mean to stop breathing, but like gives you a sense of awe and wonder or something like that. Or walking in nature. I believe everybody's had a moment of that at some point in their life, whatever that is. I think that what would be important here for the listeners is my journey, because I am a survivor of childhood sexual abuse by my father. So, and it went on for many years. And I did, I hated myself and I wanted to die. And then I learned about uh, what's in the book. It's deeper than that I also loved physics, and I was interested in the mystery and science all at the same time. So I loved thinking about how things work, or what are mechanics, or how do levers work, or does energy conduct? That was interesting to me. But I learned about a system for health and healing that was called polarity therapy. And it basically what it is that we don't conduct our own life energy. Like we are breathing because there's a current of energy that's inside of us. We could call it our soul or our spirit. And when that leaves our body, we call it death. So most of us aren't paying attention to the fact that there's a current of energy running inside of us. It's giving us a gift of life. So it is. And just like a battery conducts energy through a liquid medium, it's our cerebral spinal fluid that conducts the energy of our soul current, which is part of the source of life for all of creation. So when I learned that when I was 20, I was like, how can I hate myself and want to die when there's this benevolent energy that's giving me the gift of life? I couldn't feel it, but I couldn't deny it. Like if I can't be alive without it, if I could generate my own energy, I would never die. But this body's going to die. We're all going to have that happen. So I did. I just was like, I've been in physics laboratories. I've been in chemistry laboratories. I want to find out if this energy is there. And if so, I'm going to create my own laboratory. So I literally laid on the ground. I thought, I'm just going to lay here. It was in California in the beautiful redwoods, and I could feel the weight of my body on the ground. I could feel the wind. I could see the clouds go by and the leaves rustle. And then over time, I started to feel a pulsing inside of me. And then I knew I was alive, really alive. And I used that as a way to reframe my thinking because the experience was over. I wasn't being raped anymore, but my mind was still stuck in the pattern of hating myself and wanting to die. And so I used this metaphysical scientific thing of a battery of an energy operating inside of me between two poles to recalibrate my thinking. Literally, I would just look in the mirror and say, the source of life for all of creation is inside of me as a radiant energy. And it was accurate. And slowly my mind started being governed by that instead of my trauma. And I want everyone to have an opportunity to feel something other than their trauma. I do want to add one more thing. Yesterday, I was doing an author talk at an independent living facility. And I was sharing different parts of the book, and I shared a little bit about the wanting to die thing, which I'm so glad I did, because this woman came up to me at the end and she said, I so wish my daughter had had your book. She killed herself a year ago and she couldn't find any other way out. And I believe if she would have had your book, she would have found a way out. And I was like, oh my gosh, so that's what I have to say. That was a lot that I just said, but I wanted to give you all a framework for what restored me.
Absolutely. Can you tell us more about how you use that polarity theory? Because it sounds like this was a long journey of being able to tap into that inner self, that inner knowing that you've described, and it is somewhat of a shedding process of shedding the things that have been holding us from connecting with that energy, or shedding the things that we believe are part of ourselves that maybe aren't part of ourselves. Because I know you talked
Right.
about civilization. I know you talked about different dynamics within society that kind of block us from tapping into that power, or knowing that the things that really truly make us ourselves aren't necessarily within our power. We haven't created those things, and our circumstances
Right.
haven't created those things. So can you tell me more about kind of that journey uh, and how you really were able to shed those things?
I want to talk about nature's pace, because we live in such a fast-paced world of wanting immediate rewards. I'm also 73, and I learned about this when I was 20. I had a deep hunger to want to live, even though my mind said I wanted to die. So I think that we have to find the place in us that is fighting for our own life, or fighting for our own dignity, or fighting for our own. I don't believe worth comes from the outside. I believe our worth is already given to us because we're alive. And how do I align to it? So for me, it required a couple things. It required me to take time to sit in stillness and sit through the discomfort of sitting in stillness, and having a dedicated practice of sitting in stillness. So I do meditate, and I couldn't do I don't believe I could do it without the practice, whether you call it mindfulness or stillness, and sitting through the discomfort. Like that's one thing. I was pretty miserable already, like it wasn't, my childhood was not fun. There's other things I'm not saying, but it wasn't fun. And this was better than that. It's sort of like the toilet paper thing again. So it was a combination of requiring myself to sit with discomfort, requiring myself to seek that energy inside as me, instead of my history, or like you said, my socialization of me. And that's a lot of work. And I'm 50 some years later, I'm still doing that work at a deeper and deeper level. I'll never stop. And I think that restoring my mind. But the other thing is, I believe trauma happens in isolation most of the time, and we need relationship to heal. So I think having a counselor that can hold space for you. I've had wonderful therapists that have been able to sit with me and sit with what seemed like intolerable pain became tolerable because somebody was with me. And I think that that's what we all need, is if trauma is digestible. It's just we need somebody to witness and to help be with us and to hold space and to just allow what is, and to also see who we are beyond our trauma. I don't want trauma bonding where someone like, oh, I'm so sorry for your trauma. I mean, I want you to care, but I want you to go, no, you have power. Like you have power inside. I am sorry about what happened to you, and there's way more inside of you. So having people that can see what you can't see yet, but you want so much for yourself, and so I think it's a lot of those different things. And then having really good friends that'll tell me the truth. Like because, if I think I'm better at not sacrificing myself, but they can see I'm doing it. Like I go, I'm really good, but somebody outside of me that will go, I want you to think about whether you really want to do that or not. And I'm like, I don't, like, I think we need a lot of different things. And I think what I'm saying in answer to your question is, it is a lifelong dedicated path. It is not, and at different times you might be in therapy and not in therapy, or different things, but the work doesn't stop whether you're in therapy or not in therapy. I don't know if that answers your question. Does it?
Yeah, absolutely, it does. I love that you're normalizing that over that 50 years or so, it is continuously a journey. And I think we live in such a, fix it and forget it society,
Yeah.
that even counseling or even coaching feels like, okay, let's go and fix this, right? And then we move on with our lives. But the healing process is our lives. We are continuously healing. We continuously have opportunities for that healing. And
Yes.
it's like when you play a video game, right? And you get through the first boss, and then there's a bigger boss at the next level. There's always going to be those opportunities as we interact with other people, as we come through different situations that remind us and put us in that same frame of mind, and then we're able to advance through those in our lives. And really, that does speak a lot to, you talk about the purposeful life, and that really does speak a lot to purpose. We're allowed as humans to have our purpose be about ourselves. And we live in a society,
True.
especially as females, where we're don't be selfish and don't be, you got to be.
Yeah.
And absolutely, we want to care about other people, but we can only be as helpful to others as we can be for ourselves. We can only take people as far as we've gone ourselves. And so that being part of our purpose to say, no, my number one priority is connecting with that energy, is
Yeah.
being true to that energy. Because when other people, you talked about having friends who help us with boundaries and with energy commitments, and that's huge. Because when somebody asks us, hey, can you babysit my 3-year-old this afternoon, right, so that I can go do this or that, yes, we have competing priorities, right? Maybe we were having some time to ourselves that afternoon. Maybe we had something else that we were doing. And then we also now have the competing priority of this other person and our connection with them. And so when we're able to say, no, but what is my number one priority in any decision making? It's
Right.
protecting that energy. It's protecting myself and my energy. And so that helps us in those situations to say, I'm so sorry, I cannot, right? Or no, I'm so sorry, I just don't have the energy today, is a reasonable thing to say. And it's a hard thing for people to say because we can't see it, right? It's easy to say, nope, I've got a doctor's appointment. But it's hard to say, no, I've got an appointment with myself. That's my
Right.
time. That's my reflection time.
Yeah.
That's the time that I decompress. So I love that you are modeling that. No, those are priorities. Those are important things. We have permission to do them from ourselves. So you had talked also about how the proof that we have value of to be alive, if we've got suicidal ideation, if we've got self-harm ideation, if we've got self-harm planning happening, the idea that the proof, because a lot of times, right, we'll hear people say, well, you're so great. People love you, right?
Right. Right.
You've got all these reasons to live. You've got every reason to, and so many of us will hear those and we'll go, okay, we hear them, right? But sometimes it feels like nobody need proof. And I love the idea um, that the proof for you was that you were alive. If you were not supposed to be alive, you would not be alive. And so just in the fact that the energy, the life energy was still flowing through you and that you were still here and alive was the confirmation, was that
Hmm.
proof that, hey, I can't argue that. I can't argue the fact that I'm alive right now. Cannot argue
Right.
it. Like, there's no arguing that.
There's
And
no arguing. Well, and one thing someone said to me once, because something happened and I was having I think I was in my 30s, and I was having a really big flare up of wanting to die. Like I really felt like suicidal for a minute. And somebody said to me, I wonder if you're hitting the pain of what you were going through during your abuse. Because all children, when they're being abused, would rather die than be abused. Think about that. That hit me so hard. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm actually hitting a really great point in my healing journey because I'm actually able to access when I started thinking that. And I was blown, honestly, I was about ready to call suicide hotline. Seriously. I was like, and then they said that to me. And I was like, oh, I'm in a brilliant moment of healing. It was like this bizarro thing. And I'm saying that to people to say, like, you might be having thoughts of wanting to kill yourself, but look at where they're coming from. Are they here to help you understand what happened to you? You're not for you to act on them, but for you to go, that was a brilliant thing to do, to think that in that moment. That was a brilliant strategy because dying feels better than that experience. It seems like it for a kid. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to share that in here because it was a quick turnaround for me.
absolutely. The idea that, hey, I'm hitting a pain point And I wasn't able, all of my defenses were not letting me hit that pain point before.
Right.
And now I've worked through those defenses and I've understood those
Yep.
defenses and how they were helping me. And now I am hitting this pain point and I'm reacting the same way that I was before when I was feeling that. I haven't felt that for a long time. And the fact that that is progress, that is
Yes.
true progress. Uh,
Totally.
is huge.
Yeah.
And when I say the fact that that is a fact, that is progress. So I love that.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, wonderful. I think that sometimes it can feel like, well, I'm starting over, right? It can feel like,
Right.
well, I haven't made progress because I'm back here, but really we're cycling through.
Yes.
We're back here again, but we're better for it. We're better off than the last time that we
Yes.
had those feelings. And we're an adult and we've done the work and we understand where those feelings are coming from. And we understand our child's version of what was
Yes.
thing to do at that time as well. And it's not, sometimes people talk about forgiving their child self. But I think what really aligns more, and I think what aligns with the work that you do as well, is it's not forgiving our child self. Our child self had those self-harm thoughts, had those suicidal ideation thoughts. They don't need to be forgiven for that because that was the survival that they needed to do in order to get through that situation and bring us to where we are now. So I always, when I hear that about, forgiving our
Yeah.
previous selves, I go, I don't think she needs forgiving.
No, I think she needs celebration. Like, good job.
Exactly.
You got me here. And I always tell people our life is like a tapestry woven. And here we are now. We don't get to go back and reweave. So we are going to visit our history. We're going to visit the same things over and over again, but with more resource, with more awareness, with more capacity. You don't get new material. Like, you know what I'm saying? When people go, I can't believe I'm back here again. I go, well, where else do you think you would be? Like you just get to look at it from a different vantage point. You get to be kinder to yourself in it. You get to, like it's beautiful. It's not like, and I also about the self-harming thoughts or the suicidal ideation, I think people sometimes feel ashamed that they have them. You're not bad because you have them. You have them because you had to have them, and I just, as long as you can get some space around it to observe where they're coming from and how they got formed and how they actually served you, then it becomes such a bountiful gift.
Absolutely. I think about there's a ropes course that I do with my daughter, and there's a lot of. I remember when we first started doing it, we'd do a few and then we'd get stuck, right? And then we'd do a few more the next year, and then we'd get stuck somewhere else, and then we'd do it
Mm,
here, and then we'd get stuck somewhere else, and it's the same
yes,
courses, right? It's the same, but we get stuck in a new place. So now
it's
it's still
beautiful.
climbing, but I can climb now, right? I can climb further now than I could before. And when I think about those kinds of challenges, we don't feel bad about those kinds of situations, right? Getting stuck in something like that, or getting stuck in when we sit down to write, we go, oh, I'm stuck here, right? We don't necessarily feel that same shame, but for some reason we do when it's our trauma response, our natural trauma response for some reason brings about shame. Um,
Yep.
and gosh, how do we combat that? How do we recognize that we're having shame, and how do we turn that shame into something we can use?
I was in a shame spiral once in my teaching colleague said to me, "Fuck shame." I don't know, whatever that was. It made me laugh so hard that I shook out of it. I think shame is like stepping into quicksand. It doesn't really take you anywhere. And I think shame sometimes becomes a defense. And we kind of use it to stay stuck. Um, it kind of keeps us from feeling, actually. We spiral in I'm a bad person, or whatever the litany is. It creates a loop that doesn't really I don't feel like it lets me move. I um I learned about some shame work from Stacey Haynes, and I found it so productive. And she talks about shame being a defense strategy to keep us from feeling, and to also, once again, you want to thank it for what it did for you, but not, you don't want to, go arm in arm with it and walk in life, with it is like it's guiding you, or no, you don't want shame leading you. But I think that I think for me, there's always this thing that, like, I have been given the gift of life. I am breathing. My heart is beating. I can't deny that. And that will get me out of shame. Like, it might take a minute, or if I just walk in nature or lay down on the ground, or if people have a pet that they can hold, or something that like reorients, or sometimes like when people are really triggered or something, we've put ice on their neck to kind of shake them out of wherever they are. I think the biggest thing is to watch, where are you looping in your mind? And do you want to be looping there? What are you getting out of looping, and what's it costing you? And I think those are really good questions. I don't know if those are therapy questions, but they're definitely questions for coaching. What are you getting out of it, and what's it costing you? Like,
Because it puts into perspective that there is choice there.
yes.
And whenever we have choice, we have empowerment.
And we can choose to stay stuck, but do it consciously.
That's right.
Right? It's okay if you say, I want to suffer today and be full of self-pity and not do something that's life-giving. Great, but do it consciously. Just don't fall in there.
I love that. I love the ability to even choose the thing that doesn't move us forward, right? Because we
Yes.
can choose.
Yes.
Wonderful. So tell me about the book. So we've got your book, and I know you've got those 5 coping strategies in there. And
I don't actually have those in there. Those
okay.
are for coaching.
Okay, so what can we expect when we read the book? It's deeper than that.
There's 3 sections to the book. The book originally was to help people learn about the essence of polarity therapy, but my son said to me, unless you only want your polarity students to read your book, you're going to have to share your story, because they need to care about you to care about polarity. So there's 3 sections to the book: me, you, and everyone. So me is taking you on the journey. I tell a little bit of my history, enough to care about me and to understand the horror that I lived in. And also, when I found polarity therapy, uh, part of what happened from the trauma is I always had this pain in my neck, and I went to my first polarity teacher and said, "Can you help me with my neck?" And he said, "It's deeper than that." And I'm like, "I just want you to fix my neck." But what's deeper than that, which is when I learned about this energy operating system inside. So when Dr. Stone wrote about polarity and taught polarity, he was a chiropractor and an osteopath and a naturopath, and he has all these treatments. Well, I'm not sharing with you the treatments. What I'm sharing with you is the overall arch and this is the second part of the book, is called You. Our soul, which is a drop of the eternal ocean of love, is operating through form to remember itself. So we are designed as human beings to consciously know that we are a radiant life. And I show how it operates like a battery. So it does bring science in, very simplified. But I do bring science in. But in order for energy to move freely between poles, there needs to be a neutral gradient. In the ideal pattern, our mind would be neutral for the soul to send through form to remember. But the mind siphons the soul energy and disturbs it from flowing freely by looping in ideas or diminishing your value because of socialization or uh, being cruel to yourself or being arrogant. I mean, it could be so many different things, but whatever it is, or seeking your value outside of you, or thinking that you have worth because of your position, or whatever it is, that any job can be taken away at any given moment. Then who are you? Right. And so in this you section of the book, there's also distinctions between aloneness and isolation, stillness and sedation, and other things. So there's a way, and there's a QR code in the book so you can get into the book portal. And I teach in the book portal. There's meditations, there's a journal, and there's a documentary and my podcast. And then other people's podcasts. So this one will go into the book portal. The last section of the book is everyone. If life energy is in everyone and everything, how come our social systems don't reflect that? Because the source of life or all of creation doesn't prioritize who has value and who doesn't have value. That source sends to everyone and everything. So how do we become better human beings and humanize across difference? And how do we build collective power that's based and build social fabric based on life energy instead of human designed systems of dominance and oppression? And the book ends with collective power. And at the last line of the book, it says, at the end of the day, I am, we are. So I believe that personal and collective liberation are intertwined. So I go from my own personal trauma to like, how do we look at this battery, to how do we consider being better people together? That's kind of, and I'm not a prolific writer. The book's not real thick. But it's succinct and it's clear, and I just think it distills down a pathway for vibrancy, for purpose, and for liberation, both personally and collectively. And like I said, there's a book portal with great resources in it. There you have it. That's a book.
Wonderful. Sounds wonderful. And I love the story of how you came to the title of the book as well. It's deeper than that. I think that's wonderful. So I'm interested to hear if you could give one suggestion to somebody maybe on the fence about starting counseling or starting coaching, or even to that first step of ordering the book, reading the book. What suggestion might you give them?
Pay attention to any gnawing feeling that you're missing something. Like there's something like missing that nothing in the world is taking care of. And instead of ignoring it, stay with it. And that you've had enough of exhausting yourself in places that aren't giving you the reward you deserve inside yourself. So take the next step and reach out.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here, Suzanne. This has been a wonderful conversation, and it's great to hear about your book, and we'll look forward to reading it as well.
I'm Suzanne Roberts, and I need a counselor.
Awesome. And I'm Julie Johnson, and we need a counselor, and so do you. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the You Need a Counselor podcast. We are so grateful that you're here. You can also find and connect with You Need a Counselor on Facebook and Instagram. If you've enjoyed today's show, please take a moment to like, review, or leave a comment, as all of these things help others to find and benefit from the podcast as well. If you're in the state of Iowa and interested in mental health counseling or behavioral health intervention services, give us a call at 800-531-4236.